Akanksha, namaskaram to all the viewers of the print.
First of all, can I just say congratulations on your new book? And I'm sure our viewers are really looking forward to learning more from you about it. So let's get right into it. And let me start you off with something simple, sir. Can you tell us about, in this world of 1,000 different versions and retellings, each with their own unique perspective on the Ramayana, what motivated you to write this book? What was the thought process behind it?
Precisely at the very outset, you did say there are thousands of books with thousands of retellings and recreations. So that was the reason why I had to come up with this book. Primarily because, Akanksha, we'll all know that Ramayanam and Mahabharatam, both these, which we call as the epics in India, are referred to by a word in Sanskritam called itihasa. Itihasa in itself means as and when it happened. As something happened, it has been reported. So it is not fiction. It is not myth. It is not mythology. It is history. But to us, for the last 70 years since independence, and even during the regime of the British, the colonial period, we were often told that this is a myth and this is a mythology. And the way it was narrated and presented was as if it was very supernatural, beyond our realm of understanding. So it must have been a myth. So when it's a myth, you don't date that particular work. When it is a myth, you don't want people to believe that it happened. But Valmiki and Vyasa have not done that. They have called it itihasam. They said it is history. So when we present history, it is very important we know who has presented that history to us. So the first account of Rama's life, which is biography, comes to us through a great rishi called Valmiki. Kujantam Ramarameti Madhuram Madhuraksharam Aruhya Kavita Shakham Vande Valmiki Kokilam is the invocatory verse that says that Valmiki is the first of the poets who gave us poetry, the biography of a person in the form of poetry. So Ramayanam is history. Ramayanam is the first, to us, the world's first poem, and it was given to us by a great history chronicler called as Valmiki. And when he gives us this in the form of poetry, each of those shlokas will have multiple layers of understanding. Since it is in Sanskritam, we have commentaries to Ramayanam, the entire Ramayanam of Valmiki by 6 commentators. Maheshwara Tirtha through a commentary called Tattvadipika. There is a commentary called Bhushana by Govindaraja. There is a commentary called Tilaka by Nagesha Bhatta. There is a commentary called Kataka by Madhava Yogi. There is a commentary called Dharmakuta by Trayambakamakin. There is a commentary called as Shironmani by Vamshidhara Shivasahaya. People may know Valmiki, people may know of Rama, people may know of Valmiki's Ramayana, but people will not know these commentators. Why is it important for us to understand commentaries? Is because there are a plethora of questions that people ask. Why did Rama do this? Why did Sita do that? Why was Shurpanaka humiliated? Why did Dasharatha sin? So does why, when, where, how? It is a galaxy of questions. And all these questions have answers in those Sanskrit commentaries, just that we are all deficient in that language. Because we are deficient in that language and there is no English translation, the common public, the masses, are bereft of answers to those questions. So what I have done as a humble initiative is to ensure that I bring in the context of all these commentaries in this book, in such a way that every school-going, college-going, office-going, mid-age person, older person, they can just read it like a novel. But when they read it, they won't understand in how many layers beneath that I have packed the information of these commentaries. So instead of asking them to go buy 10 volumes of Ramayanam, 20 volumes of commentaries, 30 other works, I say, buy this one book. You will get everything in this one book. It's like, a vitamin supplement or something. Instead of asking them to have like 100 vegetables, here is this, is something that can replace. As simple as that.
Great, that's a very good analogy also. But moving forward, I also wanted to ask you that since, of course, the book that you've written, it derives from Valmiki's Ramayana, and as you mentioned, there were a number of commentaries, and there are also famous, popular versions of the Ramayana retellings that have been told by Tulsi Dasa, the Ramcharitamanas. And one thing that we often notice in different versions, different retellings of the Ramayana is the role of the narrator. Who narrates to whom? Like in Valmiki's Ramayana, it is a conversation between Valmiki and Narada. In Tulsi Das's Ramayana, there are a number of narrators. There is Tulsi Das, there is Lord Shiva. So keeping that in mind, in Ramayanam Volume 1, what was the role of the narration? And what was the decision that you made about who would be the narrator? Where did you derive it from? And what was your idea?
Okay. So at two levels, I'll answer this question very briefly. One is in the Ramayanam as given to us by Valmiki in 7 cantos, 7 kandams, Bala, Ayodhya, Aranya, Kishkindha, Sundara, Yuddha, Uttarakandam, a compendium of roughly 24,000 verses with 500 plus chapters, is initially when the Ramayanam begins, yes, there is a conversation that we notice between Valmiki and Narada. So Valmiki asks, Konvasmin sampratam loke gunavan kascha viryavan dharmajnascha kritajnascha satyavakyo dridhabrataha charitrena chako yuktaha sarvabhuteshu pohitaha vidwan kakkas samarthascha kaschaika priyadarshanaha atmavanko jitakrodaha dyutimanko anasuyakaha kasya bibhyati devascha jataroshasya sanyuge. Who is the one who has got 16 qualities? So Valmiki asks these questions to Narada Maharshi. Narada gives the answer that Rama is the one who's a repository of all these attributes. And then Brahma comes and blesses Narada, blesses Valmiki, that I give you the ability to see Rama's life as it happened, and you will be able to compose. So Valmiki and Narada's conversation starts and begins in 2-3 chapters. That's all. Whereas what I had to do was I had to retain Valmiki and Narada throughout my book. Because as and when the narration of Ramayanam happens, there will be some follow-up questions. What I have done is those follow-up questions I have made Valmiki ask and Narada answer. So that the reader, as and when he or she reads my book, doesn't end up having 100 questions. If they have questions, the next chapter, Narada should ask those questions or Valmiki should answer those questions and the other person should reply. So that by the end of the book, they get the contentment that I have read something, I had questions and those questions were answered. I should not leave them with the thirst and hunger. Oh, mere paas bahut sawal hai, mujhe jawab kuch bhi nahi mila. That should not be the thought. Point number 1. Point number 2, I had the role of Narada and Valmiki play a role, important role. I'll tell you why, Akanksha. You will appreciate it and for sure. The 2 avatars of Bhagavan, which we celebrate like huge, largely, is Rama and Krishna. So Krishna Avataram is celebrated for the great Mahabharata that happened. Rama is celebrated for the Ramayana that it happened. Now the beauty is, when we work backwards, now we are in 2024, and now when we work backwards, we go to British, we go to Portuguese, Dutch, the Mughal regime, and then we got the Rashtrakutas, the Guptas, the Mauryas, then the birth of Gautama Buddha, then the birth of Mahavira. We are going backwards. When we go backwards, it is through inscriptions and through various sources and Mahabharata that we get to know that Mahabharata happened, the war happened around 3136 BCE. And when Krishna had to go back to Vaikuntham, it happened in 3102 BCE. That is why those 3000 plus 2000 years now, we say Kali Yuga 5000 years hua hai. So we date Krishna Avataram there. Before Krishna came Rama. You will be surprised, Akanksha, all the great things that we know in our Sanatana Dharma before Krishna and before Rama happened before Rama. See, for example, let's take Matsya Avatar. You must have heard of Matsya Avatar, Kurma Avatar, Varaha Avatar, Nrsimha Avatar, Vamana Avatar, Parashurama Avatar. All great avatars. They all happened before Rama. Let's take the greatness of Shiva, Gajasura Vadham, then Jalandhara Vadham, Tripurantaka, killing of, destroying of the Tripuras. All this happened before Rama. We must have heard of the great tale of Dushyanta and Shakuntala. We must have heard of Vishwamitra. We must have heard of Sukanya and Chavana. We must have heard of Nala and Damayanti. All of this happened before Rama. So between Rama Avataram and Krishna Avataram, we don't have one notable incident that happened. So, but the beauty is, what I have done is all these incidents that happened before Rama, I have narrated within this Ramayana book, so that the reader doesn't have to go buy another set of 10 books to know that. See, today reading has come down as a practice, as a hobby, has come down considerably because you have other sources of entertainment and knowledge. So to retain this, if I tell them read one book and buy 15 other books, nobody is going to buy. Rather, I tell them I'm giving you the essence of all these 20 books in this one book. People will at least trust the intent and read. So at the end of the day, when people know that harnessing of knowledge is what I am aiming at. So I've answered your question in 2 levels.
That's great, and that's a very holistic answer. But I will prod you a little bit more because I couldn't help but notice when I was reading it that while you did retain the original conversation between Valmiki and Narada in the beginning, you actually began the book by Rama himself narrating the story of Valmiki to Sita. And that was almost like a meta narration, of Valmiki. And then we go into Valmiki's story, and then, it almost happens at the same time as Sita is. She's pregnant, she's at Valmiki's ashram, and then the writing of the Ramayana takes place. So I just wanted to understand about that choice of first beginning with a conversation of Rama and Sita, just them. And it's quite a delicate conversation if you think about it. I mean, it was just the two of them together, and you would be able to tell the audience a bit more about what the choice was. But I did want to ask you about why you decided to go with that.
Okay, so when we take up any Valmiki Ramayanam's book, for example, there is a very less expensive, very, very reaching to the common masses, which is Gita Press Gorakhpur's publication. They charge very less. They give you very good quality books where you see the original Ramayana. It will begin with Valmiki and Narada's conversation. It will begin with Rama's birth, so on and so forth. But the truth is, when did this get recorded by Valmiki? See, Valmiki has to write the biography of a person. Let's say I'm your biographer. I'm going to write your biography. Let's say I meet you up at the age of 45. So when you are 45, I'm going to chronicle what all happened before your birth, during your birth, and from your birth till 45. This is how I will record. So Valmiki also does that. But when did he do that? Many people assume it's as if Valmiki was holding a pen and an iPad or something like an Apple pen or something. And as Rama was born, he wrote, okay, Rama was born. He didn't do that. He was not as if he was an in-house biographer who was staying along with Rama. When Rama was at the age of 39, his Pattabhishekam happened because Rama returned after the 14-year exile from the Vanvas after Lanka. So when Rama was 39 is when he finally had the Pattabhishekam that took place. And Sita was around 33 because the age difference should be 6 years. And it is said that 2 years since the coronation, the Pattabhishekam happened, Sita was pregnant. So she was 35 and Rama was 41. And there was some there was grapevine, some pandemonium stating that, okay, she has been in another foreign country. How could a king do it? Rama was very heavy-hearted. When I say heavy-hearted, he felt very heavy about this. He said there should be no accusation on my regime. And with a heavy heart, he had to part ways with Sita. So he did that through his younger brother, Lakshmana. Lakshmana is the one who escorts his Babhi, his sister-in-law who's pregnant, leaves her in the forest very close to the ashramam of Valmiki and says, Mata, there is some issue in the regime. My brother asked me to put you here. But I'm like your son. I find it very tough to leave a pregnant woman who's my sister-in-law, my mother-like person here. But my brother has done it because for the sake of his regime and all of that. Now, Sita is being escorted to the ashramam of Valmiki by Valmiki himself. Valmiki knows that this is Rama's wife, a very divine person, but she has been banished. So that is when he has questions. Unke paas sawal hota hai. Maine socha tha aaj tak ki Ram is like a perfect person, a man of great values. How could he banish his pregnant wife in the middle of the forest? He has a lot of questions. सोच रहा था कि इस जगह दुनिया में एक ही आदमी है जो साक्षात पुरुषोत्तम जैसा है. But how could he do this? when he has those questions is when Narada Maharshi comes and answers those questions. And Narada says, don't doubt Rama. Rama is actually the repository of attributes. Then Valmiki feels, what should I do now? Then Brahma ji comes and says, okay, जो भी आज तक राम के जीवन में हुआ है, तुम उसको एक काव्य के रूप में लिख लो, एक बायोग्राफी के रूप में लिख लो, make it a biography. तब Valmiki asks Brahma, now Rama's 41 years. What happened till now? How will I know every incident? That is when Brahma says, Rahasyam cha prakasham cha, whatever is known to the general public and what is not known to them, all of this will be visible to your yogic eye. As you see, you have to write. So, this composition of Ramayanam as a biography itself happened when Sita was in Valmiki's ashrama. Yeah. So, that is why I had to rearrange the entire sequence so that the reader gets the exact context. So, I had to reorder it. So, it may seem different, but truly, this is the way it happened.
No, of course. And chronologically, it makes it easier for the reader also, I'm sure. Now, coming to taking a step back and looking at all the research that must have gone into this book, because as you said, there are not only retellings of the Ramayana, there's also commentaries on it. And in different parts of India and the world, there's different versions, in fact, of the Ramayana. There's some parts where the ending is different. Certain characters are different. So I just wanted to ask you about, was it difficult to bring all of that together? What was the research like? And what were some of the editorial choices that you made on what to keep, how to make it succinct, while also encompassing all of the information?
True. Yes, there are quite a few retellings. We have the very famous, very age-old transcreation in the Tamil language called Kambaramayana. We have one in Malayalam called Tunjattu Ramanuja Iluttachan's Adhyatma Ramayanam. There is a Kannada Ramayanam by Kumara Valmiki. There is a Ramayanam in Telugu by Mulla and Ranganatha. There is one in Odia by Jagan Mohan, in Bengali by Kritibasa, in Awadhi by Goswami Tulsidas, in Nepali by Bhanu Bhattacharya, in Marathi by Eknath. We have one version, 1300 years old, in a Javanese language called Kakawin Ramayanam from Indonesia. And I had to refer to 127 works related to the Ramayanam to write this book. I would say, yes, it was a bit taxing, but what to take and what not to take was very easy, because when we go through a traditional education system, we have formulas that is applied. When there is a conflict of interest in the narration, conflict in narration between an Itihasa and a Purana, it says you have to take the Itihasa's version first. Itihasa Purana Bhya Vedam Samupa Brahmayet. Jab Itihas और Puran के narration में थोड़ा अंतर है, so you have to give prominence to Itihas. And between Itihas, let's say between Ramayanam and Mahabharatam is there, you give one tinge more importance to Ramayanam. So these are all formula that's applied. So what I had to do was I had to first imbibe what the other people have said, like Tulsidas ji has said, Kamban has said. And they had written Ramayanam in different periods of time based on the societal and political conditions in those days. So we have to discount those regions. And those portions which are poetically very beautiful, I might have taken. But those things that they have narrated, which is tangentially opposite to what Valmiki has said, I have not taken. So Valmiki's Ramayanam is like the base, to give a very, very Gen Z example, when you make a pizza, you have a base. Over and above that, you have all this cheese and the oregano and all of that. So the base was Valmiki Ramayanam. That should not get compromised. But at the same time, if there are some nice elements of poetic beauty, of something that, gives you that feeling, that belief and faith, I've taken it from different acharyas. I've referred to all of them. I think close to 120 plus people I've referred to in my preface. At the same time, I have to be very honest. To stitch some loose ends, I had to use some creativity, which is harmless. I am not changing the storyline. I had to just stitch those ends. I cannot just leave them just like that. So I had to stitch those ends and make it like one comprehensive, consistent, samanjasa kavya.
Right. And I'm sure that must be a really good answer for our viewers, because they got to understand what the process was like. I'll leave you on one final question, Dushyanth, which is, this was volume 1. What can we expect from volume 2 of Ramayanam? When can we expect it? I'm sure everybody would be eager to know.
Okay, Akanksha, primarily to the print viewers, I'm basically a speaker. मैं प्रवचन करता हूँ. जैसे कि traditionally we give pravachan on Ramayana, Mahabharata, Bhagavad, all of that. I've been doing it for the last 14 years. So traditionally I'm a speaker. And I do some on and off some Bharatanatyam dance productions with great choreographers. I take people on yatras. So this writing of the book is like my 4th or the 5th hat that I'm wearing. And I'm primarily not an author, primarily not a great researcher. I'm just trying to be one. So it takes more time for me to write compared to most other authors, given that I'm also involved in a lot of activities. So in 2024, this year, June, if we have released volume 1, so through HarperCollins, we should be able to complete, because I've completed the entire Balakandam, Ayodhya Kandam, and one portion of Uttarakandam in this book. The remaining portion of Uttarakandam and Aranya, Kishkindha, Sundara, Yuddha, those kandams together will come in volume 2. It will be slightly bigger than this one. Hopefully in 2026 start or mid, I should be able to release. One more small element, Akanksha, which I want the viewers to know. One is, of course, taking the lessons and the niceties from so many versions and so many books by keeping Valmiki Ramayanam as the base and presenting it to the current day reader is one objective of the book. The second and the third objective are extremely important, which I'm sure you and your viewers will appreciate. See, the beauty is we have stone inscriptions and metal inscriptions in our Bharata Desha. Oh, age-old ones, Gupta dynasty, Pallava dynasty, Chola dynasty, all are inscriptions. When kings give inscriptions, they at times quote Ramayana there. They say like how Kaushalya gave birth to Rama, so did this queen give birth to this king. So there is a reference to one particular incident of Ramayana in different inscriptions. What we did was, with the help of good historians, we categorized those inscriptions, stone and copper, related in India across ages. And we have mentioned that in footnotes, stating that like how Rama killed Tataka, this particular. So the kings in those days, in the last 2,500 years, were very well aware of Ramayana. So Ramayana is not from Ramanand Sagar's serial. It is our history and civilization. And second part is, see, every incident, Akanksha, I'm sure you'll appreciate. Dasharatha gives those kheer, that payasam, to his wives. That has been beautifully captured in a sculpture of the 16th century in Hampi in Karnataka. We have caricatured that. We have illustrated that in that book. Similarly, Valmiki and Brahma have a conversation. After Narad Maharshi goes, Brahma comes and Brahma has a conversation with Valmiki. This conversation between Brahma and Valmiki is found in a temple in Cambodia of the 8th century. We have taken that picture and illustrated. So wherever incidents are found in the Ramayana, we have illustrated with the help of a great person called Upasana, who has illustrated. We have the 40-year-old cartoonist with a Hindu paper called Keshav, who did the other illustrations. So we have 70 historical illustrations from various countries across some 21 dynasties, which have been presented in the book, because a reader who reads it should know that the kings wanted these incidents to be carved on the walls. It was not some easy printout from the printer. They had to chisel it. The dust that comes, they had to undergo that pain. That pain to do that architecture has been presented. So there are close to 120, 130 illustrations that we have done for the book, and inscriptions for the book, writing of the book. So I would rather put it this way. Yes, I have written. I had people who illustrated it for me. I had people who give me the this thing, and we had to date also. So we had Jayashree Saranathan who gave us the dates. So when all of this comes together, it's a group work. It's a teamwork. I cannot take the sole proprietorship that maine likha. Through Bhagavan's grace and Acharya's grace, we write, and we want readers to know. So to me, it's very simple. Ramayanam is not myth. It is not mythology. It is not a figment of somebody's imagination. It is our Bharatiya's history. It is our civilizational history. So we should not go the Britishers' way and call it mythology. It is our history, and we should be extremely proud of it.
Great. And that was, I think, a very apt ending to our conversation. I'm sure our viewers will be looking forward to volume 2, and also to those that haven't already, please do read Ramayanam volume 1. Thank you so much for being with us, Dushyant, and for this enlightening conversation.